Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Ever since episode 3 of Bleach 1000yearbloodwar and our introduction to Äs Nödt, I've been absolutely needing to know everything about this character. He's certainly the scariest opponent we've seen yet, and it's that scariness around his character that got me so intrigued by him. So in this video, we'll be explaining Äs Nödt as a character. First, I will explain his backstory to his present life. Then I will be describing all of his attacks and transformations. And lastly, I'll be giving my overall opinion on the Sternritter. Two things I want to say before we get into the video. First of all, if you have not read the manga, make sure you go read the manga, because there are obviously going to be some spoilers ahead. Second of all, if there are any other characters from Bleach, or like Sternritters, or just overall anybody, or Ronkars, anybody you want, that you would like to see me kind of do an explanation video about, just let me know in the comments. So let's get right into it. As I said, we first meet Äs Nödt in the third episode of Bleach 1000yearbloodwar, or the episode 369 of Bleach, whichever one you count, and chapter 494 of the manga. He is first seen killing off some low-level Soul Reapers, and seems to be killing them in a really cruel fashion because of all his victims scream as if they're being burnt alive. Renji shows up to try to fight him, but after a couple of swings of his sword, we realize that Renji is no match. Byakuya then shows up and starts actually doing some damage. Byakuya realizes that he must use his Bankai in order to defeat the Sternritter. The second he activates it though, Sternritter F steals his Bankai. Once Byakuya's Bankai is stolen, Sternritter F starts gaining the advantage that he basically held the whole fight, and then hits Byakuya with his fear. Like basically his poison that turns to fear. Byakuya becomes filled and paralyzed by fear, and then kind of disoriented. He doesn't know what to do anymore. So Sternritter F uses Byakuya's Bankai against him, and ends up leaving Renji and Byakuya very badly hurt, absolutely demolished, and extremely close to death. The second time that we see Oz, which has not been animated yet, is when Captain Commander Yamamoto confronts yhwach. Basically Oz goes to ambush him from above, but before that they can attack, Yamamoto scorches them with his sword. Oz survives the attack, and is also present when Uryu Ushida is named as yhwach's successor, which basically shocks him. The third time that we see Oz is during the Sternritter's second invasion of the Soul Society. Basically, Oz notices that the Bankais are being taken back by the Soul Reapers. When Rukia gets back to the Soul Society, Oz confronts her, and he says that he's lonely without Senbo and Sakura, Byakuya's Bankai. He knows that she is his sister, and he wants to know where her brother's at. He then asks if Rukia was in any danger, or if Oz killed her, would he showed up to protect her / avenge her? And then she says that, well, you might as well find out for yourself. During his battle with Rukia, he ends up infecting her with the poison, but somehow it doesn't really affect her. We then learn that Rukia has trained very much and is able to lower her body temperature to below the point of freezing, which stops all blood from being transported into the body. So basically all the poison that is on her body cannot be absorbed nor transported by the blood into her system. So she's basically immune to Oz's attacks for now. Oz doesn't really understand how she is not feeling all of this fear. So she basically invites him to attack her again, which he does, and he attacks her, and this time she freezes the spikes. And then we understand that the spikes inject the fear, but not inside the wound, but in fact when there's contact on the skin directly. Then she explains again that her body temperature is able to go below the point of freezing, which stops all the blood from circulating. Oz says that as long as people are alive, they will fear death. And if death is something that all people fear, then all people feel fear, which is his main argument against Rukia. And then Rukia's like, well, I'm not alive theoretically right now because my body is below the freezing point. So theoretically nothing in my body is circulating. I am dead. So this is kind of like the perfect counter to Oz, which infuriates him. He doesn't understand how this is possible. As Rukia slowly returns to her normal body temperature, Oz proclaims that he only fears punishment by the Quincy King. And then we kind of see that his mask crumbles, revealing a very scary, decaying mouth. He then activates his Quincy Volstandig. So basically he gains a halo and 2 streams of blood pouring from his eyes, and a cloak with a line of stitches down the middle of his body. Rukia realized that she cannot move because Oz says that she's experiencing fear, and because she's looking at him. And then he reveals his ability that Tatar Foras basically stops everybody from escaping his gaze. Just as he's telling Rukia to finally experience fear, Byakuya shows up and cuts through the wall of eyes, which were stopping Rukia from ever not looking at it. So Byakuya steps forward, and then Oz just basically more or less mocks him with the fact he reminds him of all the organs that he stole from him, and basically the fact that he almost killed him last time. And then he says how much he liked Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi and how much he's gonna miss it. Byakuya then steps in, and then Rukia tells him not to look into his eyes because then he will be trapped. But then Oz says, no, you know what, it's already too late. But then Byakuya still destroys his eyes using the Zanpakuto that he's using. And then Byakuya basically thanks Sternritter F for taking away his Bankai so he can train away his Shikai and master it and become even stronger. So then Oz, or Sternritter F, becomes enraged. He becomes so freaking mad. He becomes so mad that he says instead of killing Byakuya, he's just gonna make him suffer so much that he's gonna want himself to die. Sternritter F then transforms once again and is now in a monstrous form and tells Byakuya that everybody's gonna die, and then Rukia ends up killing him by using her Bankai. Right before his death, we see that Oz is kind of thinking back, more like a memory. He's having a memory. And then we kind of see a time where he was alive, and he survived an unknown incident which left him bedridden in a hospital. And he was basically feeling pain every single day constantly. And he was a very religious man, so he had the concept of heaven or hell, and he thought that hell must be even worse than what he's feeling right now. Then right before dying, then at some point, yhwach shows up and then offers him power, which would then make him join the Wanderite as the Sternritter and pledging his loyalty to yhwach because he gave him this power. And he states that the only thing that scares him is the fact of being judged by yhwach. Basically, his power is fear. He basically is able to induce limitless fear into his victims, which basically makes them stop doing anything, and then he has his way with them because they're absolutely filled with fear. They can't do anything else. He can also use reishi manipulation, so he can absorb spiritual energy from the atmosphere, just as the other Sternritters. He's also a very good combatant. He was able to move behind Rukia. He's pretty fast is what we're saying. Then he can also use blood, which is basically that makes himself being able to put reishi into his blood vessels and then harden the skin, which stops attacks. He can also use blood vene, which is basically, again, the same thing except in an even more powerful way. Yeah, he uses reishi thorns as well, and basically he attacks people with his thorns, and the second that they come into contact with the person, the fear is induced and it's basically over. Now let's talk about his transformations. First of all, like I said, he transforms into Tatar Forest, which is basically his Volstandig. Basically, his whole body becomes, like I said, he becomes very white. He has blood dripping from his eyes, and he has a stitch going through the middle of his whole body. He's very freaking scary, to be honest. You see his whole mouth decaying, even more detailed. It's really scary. Then after that, in its enhanced form, which is now after using his Volstandig, basically he doesn't even have to come into contact with the people anymore with his spikes. He can just literally look at them, and then the person is screwed. They can't do anything anymore, which is so overpowered. Then after that, he even has another transformation. He can open the stitching from his body. He can open his body and then become even bigger than he already is. And basically you kind of see the upper half of his body hanging from his jaw, which is really scary to see. I personally think that this is my favorite Sternritter for sure. His powers are so well developed, and all the concept of fear surrounding him is also so well explained, and you come to see that the characteristic of fear was only given to him because when he was human, he literally felt so much fear. The voice they use in the anime for Sternritter F fits his overall persona so well. And gives off an already scary vibe. I can't wait to see the rest of his manga parts animated because I know it's about to go insane and most likely give everybody nightmares. The drawings in the mangas are so detailed and are sure to give you nightmares. From his decaying mouth to his voice to add that depth to like his full standing with the eyes and then the stitch and all white. He looks like a ghost or like a demon. He literally looks like a demon. And then his second transformation, he looks disgusting, but like a scary disgusting. Everything about this character induces fear, and he's so well done, so well written, so well animated. He's probably my favorite Sternritter, like I said. So there you have it. Basically an explanation of everything about Äs Nödt or Sternritter F, whichever you prefer. So thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's anybody else that you would like me to do a sort of little tiny review / explanation about. And if not, well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.